Welcome back, everybody, to WCS Premier League for StarCraft 2. We've had a great day of action already thus far, Kane. We just saw that IA defeated Xenocider 2-0 in a very dominant series. And is this, I mean, this is more one-sided than I think people were expecting. Would you say that, Kane?
Yeah, I would say both games were fairly one-sided in IA's favor. I think a lot of people weren't really expecting that so much from IA. For those of you who don't know IA, he's been doing very well in the Chinese scene recently. And yeah, Xenocider, a strong American Terran, of course, but IA's macro play and even his all-in in the first game was just a little too much.
So I actually had a little bit of time to speak with IA before that series began, and he stated that he actually wasn't feeling confident against Xenocider because he wasn't confident in his ZVT, especially with the patch to the swarm hosts. So he felt that he wouldn't be doing well, but obviously he was either lying to me or, you know, being humble. As he stated earlier, modesty is the culture of China. So would you say that that game was just IA playing exceptionally well, or do you think that the nerves got to Xenocider a little bit?
To be honest, I was very impressed by IA's play. It seemed like, especially in the second game, his macro play was on point, his creep tumor spread was just perfect. Everything he was doing was very nice, and it was just a little too much for Xenocider.
Well, his next opponent will be the winner of either Harstem versus NXZ. Now, these two players, NXZ is someone that comes all the way from Australia, a very, very long flight for him. We have not seen much of him, whereas Harstem is someone we've been seeing a lot of lately. He's been on a tear recently with his top 8 finish at DreamHack, which was his first top 8 ever. He's been doing really well against Zerg in particular by defeating Serral in Challenger 3-1.
Yeah, so I actually had a small chance to speak to NXZ before this. He said he wasn't feeling very confident against Harstem, but at the same time he said that being the underdog is very good for him because it doesn't feel any pressure, he doesn't feel nervous at all. He feels very comfortable. Maybe he doesn't expect himself to win, but I think that he might surprise himself.
Yeah, and I feel like yesterday and today we've had a lot of cases with players such as Mystery and other players that we just haven't seen a lot of surprise us in a lot of different ways. So do you feel that NXZ might surprise us and have a few tricks up his sleeve, or do you think that this will just be Harstem dominating?
I think that NXZ might have prepared something for Harstem, especially maybe map-specific builds or something like that. I think that since he is the underdog and we don't know a lot about him, we haven't seen too many games of him or anything like that, he could definitely have something prepared here and might surprise Harstem, might, you know, get a small advantage. Even small advantages can lead to big advantages, so we'll have to see what NXZ has planned here.
Yeah, and speaking of planned, we can also state that, yes, Harstem has been doing well lately. We saw him at a major tournament, as I just said, at DreamHack. But that being said, that means there's even more replays that NXZ could have studied of Harstem, whereas in reverse, there wasn't probably much for Harstem to study.
That's true, but looking at Harstem's results from that DreamHack, you know, he 2-1 Serral, he, I think 2-0 Snoot, or 2-1 Snoot, one of the two.
He defeated Serral twice, I know that.
Yeah, and then he did beat Snoot as well.
Okay.
But I'm not sure how that will play here. I mean, it is different. He might be a bit jet-lagged since he did fly from the Netherlands. But Harstem is looking really scary in CVP. I have had the chance to practice with him a little bit. Again, maybe, I think that was before Challenger last season. And his PvZ is really scary. He's not afraid to all-in. He has a very, very good macro game. It's just overall really, really scary to play against Harstem.
Yeah, and I also had the chance to speak with him as well, and he sounded extremely confident and not sound worried about any player in this group. We'll see if his confidence is able to showcase itself in a win here in our first match for Harstem and NXZ of the day in Group D. Nathaniel Sinhuk, take it away.
Thanks very much, Sue. Interesting series ahead. Harstem, in my opinion, is the strongest player in this group by far.
And I would go on a limb here and say NXZ is probably the weakest. I mean, I don't want to throw mud or anything, but he's the least accomplished, I guess we could say.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking through his match history. You know, games he plays against Protoss, or at least like prolific Protosses. Like one of the last tough matches he had, you know, he played like, you know, the Desro NA Weekly. He lost to 2-0 to like some Canadian Protoss that like got knocked out of Premier this season. Like really, really blew my mind actually.
I heard he was good though, that guy. It's Huck, Huck, I think. Yeah, I mean
something like it's a guy like the micro probes or something.
Yeah, I heard he lost barely to Stardust, who made it to round of 16, Toronto. So,
yeah, so
practically Huck almost made it to round of 16.
Yeah,
pretty much.
You really, if you put it that way, I think that makes total sense. But this is a clear underdog story versus someone that. Hey, let's hype up Harstem a little bit because we know that there's been the year of Harstem fame people talk about.
There's been so many years,
but he's been getting better. I think the result-wise, most people have better things to say about him in the last 6 months, no?
He's gotten better, and he's like a ladder monster, and he practices a lot. But at the same time, there's been so many years of Harstem. It's like the decade of Harstem at this point.
So it's just like overplayed. But is he actually getting better then?
Yes, he is getting better. I'll give him credit. He is getting better. He has been practicing more. He's made it into Premier. He's been beating top players. He's been on top of GM. You know, this is like a very regulated thing. They even have like those little ladder competitions on the EU server. So he is the strongest player in this group, and he's one of the strongest Europeans, specifically Protoss, but even, you know, all together.
Yeah.
And he's finally getting the results. And I think if he keeps building that confidence, keeps going with it, he could be a top foreigner, you know, that challenges, you know, Bunny and Snoot. We really haven't had that Protoss representative for a while in the foreign scene.
Yeah, I mean, I think Harstem's coming off of a pretty reasonable month at least. I remember he had a pretty decent result at a DreamHack Tour. Didn't end up in the most difficult side of the bracket, but was the only foreigner to actually make it to the top 8 for that tournament. This is, I think, a really big opportunity for him to keep a bit of a hot streak going, at least, you know, for the non-Korean players that haven't had as many results recently. These map picks stand out to you? Coda, Vani, Iron Fortress?
Not really. The vetoes make sense. Harstem, you know, Infernal Pulls, the usual business, but mostly Iron Fortress I think is the most interesting map here. It's like it's really tough to play against Zerg on this map, but because they show so much aggression, you can kind of play into that meta-wise and just get Blink Stalkers, and if you survive, then you're in good shape.
Yeah, when I think about Harstem's style, I think about a lot of...
He's a macro player.
Yeah, he's the kind of guy, though, that plays the style that's coming into popularity. Like, he was one of those guys that would already do a lot of, like, you know, the +2 Blink plays, gateway aggression, and I think that plays a lot into what Protosses have been trending towards since the Swarm Host patch. Do you agree, or do you see some other stuff from him?
No, I agree. I mean, if he played on like Inferno Pulse, he's the type of guy that would get like a Warp Prism, take the 3rd base on the island or something like that.
Yeah.
But in general, it's easier to play against him just because he is like such a macro player. He doesn't really cheese a lot. He doesn't really do a lot of early timings. He'll do later timings, but they'll be like, you know, opportunist kind of pushes where if he can do damage, he'll try, but he won't be all in or anything like that. And NXZ is just a guy we haven't seen much of. I mean, we always see, what are the 2 players, like Igus and Pig. Before that, it was like Pig and Moonblade.
We've had a good number of players make this season be their WCS Premier League debut. You know, Xenosider today, we had Atreus.
Rhett. I mean, not debut, but he hasn't been in it, what, like a year, 2 years?
Rhett hasn't been in Premier for quite some time. And then even seeing Mystery come up, like it's been a lot of new players that have been making their splashes, and I think that's been a pretty cool like difference this season. You know, we saw a lot of returning veterans. I think at least it felt to me last season, a lot of players that were like staples for their regions, but now we have more new players coming up. I'm very impressed that he's able to defeat a player like Pig. I hold Pig in pretty high regard, especially from the players that are able to compete out of the Southeast Asia region. So that alone to me was a bit of a surprise. It was pretty close. That result was like a 3-2, and he doesn't have any ZvZ to fall back on really in this group too much of.
Yeah, I actually caught the games. They were like you said, very, very close. In just the C region in general, it's always Zerg players from there.
Yeah.
I asked.
Well, who are your heroes? If you're a StarCraft player in Australia, like who's your hero?
Huck. Like it doesn't matter where you go, what race you play. It's just the answer is Huck every time.
Well, I mean,
but
you know, like players like Moonglade, right?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, what I talk to most of the C guys, and what they commonly say is they have to play cross server so often. NA, Korea, whatever, they don't have the best ping, and they say Zerg is the easiest race to play cross server. There's a lot of aim moving. I'm not trying to be biased or anything.
It's more about setting up for engagements rather than microing during engagements.
Yeah. So you set up the arc and then you attack, and you know maybe you have to hit fungals or something.
That is a good point. I like Moonglade just being that handsome guy they all wanted to follow after.
Yeah.
Because he was like one of the first big guys to get results out of there. Aig is somehow being the only Terran to really escape with some success, but we've seen a few other guys make it out of there, especially in the Zerg department.
So what you're saying is Protoss would have no chance because they have a lot of micro mechanics and it's harder?
You know, it's just so difficult to place those force fields, and you know, I completely agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, he's just got a long road ahead of him in NXZ. He's clearly the weakest player in this group in, you know, my eyes, and then like just objectively result-wise, he hasn't been heard of. I'd be very surprised if he even made it out of this group, but you know, we'll see. The one thing he does have going for him is he hasn't played that many PvZs, like you said. The last one probably losing to that legendary player that is Huck in the Desert Weekly Cup, a very prestigious, I mean,
very
like,
prestigious online
it's
event.
like, what, a WCS, and then Desert's Cup, and then like DreamHack.
And then GSL afterwards.
Yeah, a little bit below.
just a little bit. But, you know, for tournaments like that, this is a guy who would primarily play online cups. You know, how much do you feel it impacts him? Like, not only, because I had talked to him yesterday. I was like, is this your first time in the US? He's like, yep. You know, he saw Xenocider and he was like, well, I already realized I made like one of the best moves by coming over here. But it's still a whole new experience to play in a country, place he's never been before. Really long travel, of course, to come all the way from down there too. Yeah,
I mean, the travel wasn't as bad. I mean, I always hear about these Australian flights and it's like 18 hours, something ridiculous like that. He actually had a direct flight. Thank you, courtesy of ESL/Blizzard. 12 hours, not so bad. Pretty sick.
Okay.
And he's been here a few days, so I don't think he's jet lagged or anything like that. I'm gonna get him, or somebody's gonna get him. I'm gonna make sure of it. Some in and out today, so it'll be
just give him the full American experience. I agree.
Oh wow, the crowd goes nuts.
Cheers for that. We are counting down into the first game of our second best of 3 here at the World Championship Series. We're starting off on Coda. So I think we're both going to be in agreement. Harstem definitely a favorite. NXZ is going to have to show us some nice moves if he wants to make it out of here.
Yeah, Harstem looking so pouty. He has those thick lips.
Yeah, well, Harstem, you know, he's not going to show his true feelings until he wins.
Yeah, and he gets that smile.
Then he breaks it out.
Tweets at Nicki Minaj.
Yeah, it's like, thank you for the power to get through my WCS group.
I dedicate this. We're going to do the shout-outs. Do you have anything to say? Nicki Minaj, I love you.
Every artist on his playlist that he listens to when he's competing in StarCraft. We are loaded in, though, ladies and gentlemen, to the first map of our second best of 3 here. You're watching the World Championship Series Premier League Group D. In the northwest position, spawning as the blue Zerg player, we have NXZ representing Silicon Gaming.
And in the 4 o'clock position, from the Netherlands, from Team Invasion, it is Harstem. Why so serious?
Oh, man, he's out for blood. He knows that he gets hyped. He's like, I've been hyped too much to come this far and not make it. I feel like Harstem puts a lot of pressure on himself.
Yeah, I mean, with the hashtags, year of Harstem, you got like a deadline, right? You get to the next year and you haven't performed. It's just, you know, you got to stretch that out one more year.
Well, you know, if you really wanted to push it, you know, the year thing can also be like, if he was on a planet that was further away than Earth, then theoretically it could, you know, maybe it's like a Pluto year, so he's got like a lifetime, couple lifetimes.
Decade of Harstem.
But NXZ is going to open up with something not aggressive. This is a player we haven't seen so much of, so I think, you know, whether we get like an early pull out of him or something is a sign. Maybe he's not feeling like he needs to be cheesy at the very least. No fast drones out on the map. And another thing, like the maps. Do we think, is he going to be like a gold baser? Have you seen Harstem play versus gold based Zergs before?
I haven't seen too much of Harstem's PvZ. I looked up some VODs and stuff, but in that particular scenario, I haven't seen. I think NXZ is just playing to what Harstem is as a player. He's not cheesy. He's not very aggressive. He's very safe, you know? Harstem's one of those guys that's always on Twitter, safe. Yeah. Safe. That like it's little memester stuff.
It's not just something that you say, you know, it's a lifestyle.
Yeah, and he's just super standard, super safe, not too greedy, always scouts early, but never cheesy. And
he doesn't like to waste opportunities.
Yeah, and it can be abused a little bit. You know, you could throw down, you know, 3 hatch before pull, hatch first, then pull. You don't really have to, you know, I don't think he's a guy that's going to die to cheese, and at the same time, I don't think he's a guy that can just cheese himself. So you can get a small advantage in every game against Harstem.
Yeah, but Harstem can do some aggressive builds. Like I've seen his 2-base gateway pressure before. It's something fierce. I was asking him, I'm like, how do I play Protoss? And I'm like, I don't want a micro. He's like, okay. And he showed me the 2-base Harstem 4-gate. But I don't know how much he does that these days. He sees a fast third hatch rate. Is he worried at all? Does he see anything here he's concerned about? Or like does he feel like potentially his build is behind against what NXZ has done?
I think he's a confident enough player that he's like, this is what I expected.
As long as I don't get cheese.
Yeah. He's just like, okay, standard game, I'm comfortable. I should win this, I'm the better player. Which is the like perfect mindset to have where even talking to NXZ, he's not super confident. I feel like he knows he's the weakest player. The one thing he does have going for him, though, is he doesn't have the pressure. Harstem is by far the favorite in this group. So if he lost, everybody would be like, wow, really? You lost that group, man?
That reminds me of Kane in the round of 16 of last season, WCS, where he's like, oh, no one expects me to beat Polt and
No
Bunny.
expectations.
It's like, no, I just play my game.
Yeah, and there is strength in that, because if NXZ loses here, or just loses the group, everybody's going to be like, huh. I mean, I guess that should have happened, where Harstem, you know, if he doesn't perform, people will question it. They'll be like, what happened?
It's something that will follow him for a long time if he were to drop, especially out of this group.
Yep, so that is something going for him. And NXZ, if he has the right mindset, if he sees that, then he can use that to his advantage. And that's such a big part of being a professional player at this level, is having the right mindset going into these games so that you're not nervous, you're very calm, you're not anxious. You just play the best that you can play.
Yeah. Harstem's pushing out with a single Zealot and a Mothership Core out to the tower. He's building a sentry behind this, so by not opening with the Stalker, he doesn't have that... Like, it's not as easy for him to deny a Scout, I would imagine, but NXZ hasn't opened up with anything crazy. Like, he's getting some links. Maybe he feels like he's about to be hit with some pressure that's not actually coming. These 10 links, he doesn't have speed, so this must be in fear.
Yeah, this is just like, I don't want to lose anything to a Zealot or a Mothership. It's like an overreaction. You could probably just get 4 or 6 with the Queen, you'll be fine, but he overreacts a little bit. It's okay.
All right, not the end of the world.
Yeah, no, it's fine. And then they're just both, you know, droning up, and we're still waiting to see what Harstem's dedicating to. By seeing just 3 gateways, it looks like he just wants to take a Nexus off of this, and
just
once
go
again,
up to 3 bases, not take a chance.
Super safe Harstem. Safe, boys, safe.
Yeah, it's a very reasonable way to play. The last thing you want to do is get caught off guard by an opponent that you are confident against in a long game, right? So if we really think about it, like, Harstem realistically wants this game to go on as long as it can without, you know, anything really weird or silly happening. And then if he's, you know, takes the first map, then maybe you look on putting a bit of pressure into game 2, see if you can make something of your advantage in the series. But NXZ, like, he goes in with his Overlord to scout. There's just 3 sentries to stop him. He's got Spore Crawlers on the way, Zergling Speed, and his Lair. Like, he's not... It seems like he doesn't know 100% what he's up against, but, you know, we can see that there's no tech he would need Spore Crawlers for at this point in the game.
Yeah, he's going to scout the 3rd base, and seeing the Forge and everything, he's going to know pretty much where he's at in the game. But once again, this is playing into Harstem's hand, I think. I mean, does NXZ need to do anything at this point? No. But Harstem should be the more comfortable player the later it goes, as you said. I mean, he played against Serral, who's, like, considered one of the best Zergs in EU.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Really young, lots of potential, like, on the up and up, and he beat him. And not only did he beat him, he didn't really do anything unusual. He played really safe, long macro games, even using Tempest against Broodlords, really patient play. And that's where, you know, his strength lies. And he's just, you know, scouting, making sure everything's normal.
And when you're feeling confident, when you're feeling in the zone and not nervous, it's a lot easier to make decisions because you can tell yourself, like, I know I need to do this right now. I'm not panicking. I'm not in a state where I'm really worried about my opponent throwing something at me. Do you like this move out from him? Is this just to force units?
Yeah, this is just a poke. I mean, once you see this many sentries in just one Zealot, there's no meat here. If you can make him make units, if you can kill a few drones, maybe get a queen, whatever, that's what you're doing. But you don't want to lose a sentry. You basically just trying to force units. And he scouts ahead with the hallucination. Be nice if he turned around and killed this Overlord. He's not really in any danger.
Put those sentries to work. He has enough energy to recall if he needed to. Is he worried about the Nexus energy?
No.
Does this hallucinated Phoenix that he sends through tell him in any way that he might be facing an attack soon?
Yes, if he's paying attention and he sees roaches coming out, you know, he sees from the main a few roaches, from the natural, the 3rd, then he knows, you know, maybe there's some aggression coming, but all in all, he's not too worried. He just keeps scouting. He's like constantly scouting. He constantly knows what's happening, and we want to see those eggs pop. He kind of loses it to the Spores, so the Spores aren't completely useless. They are denying some scouting because ideally with that Phoenix, you want to see what comes out of those eggs. You see drones, you're like, safe. You see units, you're like, okay, maybe I got to chrono boost some warp gates here. That's a big thing that a lot of players don't recognize on the amateur level. When you see a lot of chrono boost on the Nexus, it's not necessarily a bad thing. You can use that as a waiting move, just as Zerg uses Larva. You know, sometimes Zergs, like, they'll wait and they're like, I don't know what I need to do.
If he sees that he needs to warp in a lot of units, he can use several layers of chrono boost to get a crazy amount of gateway units out.
Exactly. You do a wave, you chrono boost, you do another wave, and all of a sudden you're going to have, you know, maybe 10 more Stalkers. And that could be what you need to hold a push.
Yeah. And then subsequently win the game.
Yes, exactly. So, you know, you wait to see what you need to do, and then you're like, oh, is he just droning? I can, you know, chrono boost out my blink, chrono boost out my upgrades, and he's just going to push it once again out on the map. And is this like he's trying to kill him? No, this is the standard Harstem thing. He's just putting on pressure.
Yeah. 7 gates on 3 bases is not all in at all, right?
No, not at all. And he just wants to, you know, force units, do damage if he can, take a nice engage. But all in all, he's not going to all in here. He's not too worried. If he can pick units off like this, is perfect. 3 roaches, some force fields, he'll do it. And then, you know, he builds a pile and just cancels it. He knows he's not in bad position.
Yeah, his Warp Prism is close to finishing. He can start to put on a lot more pressure with the aerial harass. We do have a Hive starting for NXZ, so he's trying to make his way up to what I would imagine is Roach Hydra Viper. Try to use some Blinding Clouds on that big Gateway army, and then it turns into a micro battle. You know, dodging with the blinks of the Blinding Clouds, of course, getting those perfect Blinding Clouds, and maybe going for abducts on things like the Mothership Core. Is going to try to push out towards the Watchtower, and Harstem just gets a couple force field, peels off a nice chunk of this army. He's like, I don't have to fight you if I don't want, but if you want to just slowly move units into this meat grinder, go for it.
Yep, this is the Korean style that's so popular right now too. It just gives you a lot of options. If you have the control, if you're not making mistakes, if you're very comfortable, like Harstem is, he's harassing, sending a Warp Prism, and just picking off units constantly. And meanwhile, at home, getting Storm. He's already preparing for the Vipers that aren't even out yet.
Yeah, by already having the Templar, it's like, yeah, I could feedback if I need to. If I don't need to feedback, yeah, Storm.
Perfect.
And then you will crush Hydralisks with Storm.
Yeah, this little Warp Prism not going to do too much, but he's distracting his opponent. He has a large amount of his army, and now all of a sudden he's got this big opportunity. He still has recall, he has enough sentries. He can just keep force fielding, pick off this base, pick up workers, and then just recall home.
Yeah, so he just pick off the hatchery, he can press the eject button, run on back to his 3rd base, and is he looking to take a 4th, or is he just going to max out and go for the killing blow?
I think he just needs to max out, add Immortals, get Storm, and he's just playing so surgically right now. Very, very, very calm, and he just recalls, like I said. Now he's back home, he has force fields, he can block off that ramp. He still has a Warp Prism for some aggression, but NXZ, he's not really doing anything wrong. But as time goes on, Harstem, slowly but surely, pulling ahead. Yeah. 1 step ahead the whole game.
Yeah, his +2 attack just finished up, so Stalker's a bit more potent. Now Storm is ready. And with the number of High Templar he has, 4, and it looks like majority of them are, yeah, they're all with the army. So he has more than enough Storms to clear out this army a few times over. And even though the Hive is ready, we only just now have the first Viper actually coming out, and it's only 1.
And there's 4 High Templar with Storm already. He's added Immortals.
Good luck getting a Blinding Cloud on that.
Harstem's in complete control of this game. He's just been slightly ahead the whole time. Even upgrade-wise, he's on +2. Zerg's just getting +2. And there's no mistakes. It's just Harstem has played his game, and NXZ needs to throw him off a little bit. He needs to do something that's going to bring him back. Because I'll take this engage all day. Protoss army with Splash, Storm, and Zerg's just on Roach Hydra.
Against just pure Roach Hydra with no supporting units whatsoever. Harstem's getting ready to push in now towards that area between the natural and the 3rd base. Guardian Shields pop, a few Storms to proc this fight, and once he moves forward, like I still feel he can make more big plays. Okay, now the Warp Prism puts some Zealots inside of his main. Without charge, the Hydras can deal a little bit, but the Hydras aren't kiting, so they're actually all going to die anyway.
Yeah, the same number of Hydras versus Zealots, even if they don't have charge and they're not being microed, should trade pretty evenly. Harstem just checking the 4th base. He's, I'm getting my own 4th. Takes this engage. Good Storms, and Blind Cloud goes down. He does peel off a lot of this damage from the Zerg army.
Oh, those Storms absolutely wrecked the Hydralisk. The Zealots were still in the main base, going ham. He saw the Greater Spire morphing in. Force fields the drones away from the army. Could have tried to chase them down, but, you know, killing 16 already, not bad at all. You can go for the Hydralisk den and these Zealots.
16 drones. That whole main base got cleared out by these Zealots.
Yeah, this is an ugly spot to be in for NXZ and Harstem. He checked every possible follow-up that he could have to deal with. He already has a Fleet Beacon on the way, an Oracle for Revelation for Tempests, and 2 more Stargates. So he's going to be on 3 Stargates with a Fleet Beacon before anything even comes out for NXZ that can be built from that Spire.
The first big mistake coming out from Harstem, loses the Mothership, but at the same time he's trading out. Few ground units, takes out a Viper.
Is Harstem playing this too patiently?
No,
Do you think
he's playing perfect.
Okay.
As close to perfect as you could expect from a pro player at this level.
He doesn't need to try to force it right now.
Yeah, he's in complete control. He doesn't need to end the game. He's just constantly pulling further and further ahead in my eyes.
Yeah, this is actually a good opportunity here. You could snipe that Greater Spire. I should be able to finish morphing, but there's no Corruptors on the map yet. Like he's just
4's coming, but it's not going to make it in time.
Yeah. So no Brood Lords will be able to be built now for NXZ. Kills the Warp Prism with the Immortals.
It's not even that scary though. I mean, it's a big deal.
He's
obviously.
that far ahead.
Yeah. And it's not like he's making these really big plays. It's just, you know, constantly putting on pressure, constantly taking good engages, macroing at home. This is the exact safe G Harstem that everybody likes to see.
Yeah, very, very solid, clean play all the way throughout. He's rebuilding the Warp Prism. And then NXZ's like, okay, well, start up an Ultralisk Cavern and +1 melee.
He's already got 3 Immortals, a huge army of Blink Stalkers. Blink Stalkers aren't even that bad against Ultralisks.
And he doesn't have the bank to actually like switch into a lot of Ultralisks yet.
Yeah, he's going to try to flank him here, but with so many force fields, with so much Storm, Blinding Clouds are nice, but
he can still storm. You can storm through the Blinding Clouds anyway, too. And he has the cannons to fall back on as well. A really great anchor to this defensive position.
Yeah, these Storms are just going to do so much damage. Oh, both sides.
Yeah, those Storms are just absolutely showering all over NXZ's army. Like, he's trying to push and he's trying to break this 4th base of Harstem, but you mentioned earlier he already had the Immortal Backbone. GG's called. Harstem will take game number 1 here in our 2nd series of the day at the World Championship Series Premier League.
Yeah, and he's just so calm. I feel like Harstem, he's living up to the dream right now.
Yeah, I mean, that's, I think you said it perfectly. Like, he didn't overstep on any ground. He played, to me, you know, from my perspective, I'm like, okay, well, Harstem is really taking his time with everything here, but that's just him playing very deliberately, not trying to make any mistakes.
Yeah, NXZ really thinking, like, what can I do here? I think he knows that he needs to make something happen. But Harstem, honestly, I don't want to, like, you know, go too hard on Harstem here, but over these last 2 weeks, or these 2 weekends, he's probably been the most solid player I've seen thus far, just from that first game. Maybe we'll see, you know, him be a little bit more challenged from the other players in the group, but yeah, as of right now, PvZ-wise, that game was, you know, perfect almost. He made some small losses, but nothing too big.
Next question. IA is waiting in the winner's match for whoever gets out of this series. Harstem being up 1-0, if he's watching these games, is there anything he looks at and he's like, I see a weakness? Like, has Harstem shown any chinks in his armor where he could possibly be attacked?
The only thing is he plays too safe. That, like, maybe because Harstem knows that he's, I think, much better than NXZ, but when it comes to IA, he's a lot better player. And I think he has a lot more tools. You know, we saw him against Xenocider making those early pushes, those strange
well, he demolished Xenocider.
Yes, and he's going to be willing to do those all-ins. You know, he's going to look at Harstem and think, okay, this guy's super solid, super macro, super safe. That means either I can play super greedy and hit it like a later timing, or I can do like some kind of all-in. And he's going to try to abuse that fact. He's never going to want to go up against Harstem, you know, toe-to-toe and think, all right, I'm just going to box this guy. You know, he's going to take some dirty shots, or he's going to take some, you know, really greedy plays to come out ahead.
Yeah, it's very interesting position because the Zerg style that we've seen a lot of the Chinese Zergs use against Protoss is heavily aggressive. I think about players like Tudming, and it's like a trend that they all sort of seem to follow with the very heavy Zergling aggression, always being out on the map, always having the roaches and looking for opportunities to pressure. But that also sounds like it might not. It's like you have to hope that Harstem makes a big mistake if he's playing, you know, safe, and to actually catch him off guard with something like that. But Vonnie Research Station for map number 2.
Gold base. That's the biggest question mark here.
Is going for a gold base build enough to give NXZ an edge?
I don't think so.
All right.
I'm killing the hype, but I really don't think so. I think Harstem's well practiced.
So it's going to be a very tough game for this gentleman in the north here, as we are loaded into map number 2 of our 2nd series of the day here. Spawning in the top position representing Silicon Esports, he's NXZ.
And in the 6 o'clock position, has more years than Chinese calendar. It is? Oh, no, it's not.
Well,
no, it's not. Well, it's kind of Harstem, a little bit.
And your train gets the real hut. We're just making sure everything is okay with NXZ setup. Just make sure everything is cool, that there's no issues or anything that I have to worry about.
Oh, rocking out. That's for sure Minaj, right? Has to be.
I mean, this is one of those things that if you manage to advance on in a series, I think that's that's got to be like an interview question. Like, how do you jam out? How do you jam out? Because if you really think about it, like StarCraft is so much a mental game, and not, you know, like the mechanics are important, but even having good mechanics requires you to be really well focused, right? So the music, when you really think about it, or like whatever you use to get in the zone, like it's got to have a massive impact on your ability to actually play.
Yeah, I think the interview after this game is definitely going to be lyrically intense.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I think Harstem is like a musical kind of guy.
On a scale of like 1 to 10, out of all the stuff that Harstem uses to prepare, how much of like the 10, you know, preparation points do you think like stuff like this comes into getting in the zone? Is this like a core foundation for his ability to play?
Yeah, I think every player has like small ritual, a small checklist that they do. Like for me, I mean, like I have simple stuff like I take like a drink of water, swish it around my mouth, make sure, you know, it's nothing's dry, you know, I'm really
You're
relaxed.
like, just make sure that I don't have bad breath during the winner's interview. Like,
no, nothing like that. I have this like little hand squeezer that I squeeze,
oh,
kind of like get out
a stress grip.
Yeah, to like kind of get the nerves out, kind of relax. So everybody has stuff like that. Harstem, obviously, listening to music, just jamming out. I think he just wants to feel comfortable. You know, that's what most players. You want to mimic the home situation.
Yeah, exactly. You know, music has a lot of them. You know, ties in your mind with memories and things like that. And if you have songs you associate with good memories, and
it's a big
bring
difference,
out those feels.
Actually, between foreigners and Korean players. Korean players, for the most part, won't listen to music when they compete at tournaments. You know, at home practicing, yeah, maybe some of them no, but for the most part at tournaments, Koreans will not listen to music, where foreigners, it's common. You know, if I don't have my Spotify on one of those computers,
you can't listen.
Huck's not happy. And you don't like Huck when he's not happy, man.
I do not. It's important to be in the zone, that's for sure. We are loading back into game number 2. We are live once again, and yeah, he's whatever it is, he's singing along to it. This is the, you know, it's like, this isn't a team game, but I still want a comms mic on it just to know. Okay, we're ready to go. We're on Vonnie Research Station. Our first player in the top position, the blue Zerg, representing Silicon Esports. He's NXZ.
And in the 6 o'clock position, hailing from the Netherlands, it is our red Protoss, Harstem. Harstem, boys.
I'm very interested in whether or not NXZ goes for the gold base.
Yeah, he needs to do something. I feel like he can't, like I said, he can't go up in a straight macro game.
What's the craziest thing that you could really do on this map aside from the gold base? Who was we did see someone go for both the right side gold base and the one in the center of the map, which was pretty brave.
I don't remember.
I think it happened last week. For some reason, it's escaping my mind. I don't think it was.
Mojito Club boys.
Yeah. Well, it's something that, you know, you got to take big risks like that though.
Yeah, I mean,
what about the proxy hatch style, like versus 4GG? Should you just build a hatch outside of space?
Yeah, there's a lot of cheeses you can do on this map.
Would you prefer that to him trying to play another straight-up game?
I think he needs to do something. It could be anything. It could be Nidus, it could be like fast mutas, it could be, you know, like really aggressive burrowed roaches.
So like a Bly build.
Something. Yeah, he needs something. Bly, like you see, yeah, he's a very good player where he mixes it up. He can play macro, but you need to mix it up, especially when you're playing a better player, and that's why I'm saying. Against IA, Harstem's going to have a harder time because I think IA is slightly better than NXZ, and, you know, you can't always play super safe. Against, you know, if you're better than a player, sure, you feel fine, you want to play macro, play super safe, you know, you might fall behind a little bit in the build, but in the end you're going to come out ahead. But NXZ has to figure something out here.
I mean, he opened up pool into hatchery, no gas. A relatively standard opening so far, and not even doing what a lot of other Zergs have done in WCS and even in some of the Korean leagues. He took the pocket base as his first one. Like he didn't want to reach out to take the low ground expansion, which is super popular. The gold base, which is it's like standard to just take the gold base on this map to start. Like the Protoss players generally have no way to punish it early on.
Yeah, I mean, It could be later, you know. He could throw in that Nidus, but he needs to do something not normal,
something abnormal. He needs to shake. He needs to.
I want to if I was his coach, I would go up to him and be like, you know, I would hate to say this, man, but I feel like you're just not going to be able to beat this guy in a straight up macro play. You need to mix it up, and he plays super safe at the same time.
I mean, we've seen players have success taking that mentality though. Like, we think about players that have
crazy builds, YOLO builds, like Violet.
Yeah, players that have difficult times winning macro games against opponents that are solid. Like, I think to Haas immediately, right? Because you have Haas who's taken down players like Jaedong in official WCS matches with just the craziest strategies. Just, I mean,
6 pylon wall, cannon rushes.
Yeah. And then when he's forced to play a longer, like, straight-up game, like when he played Kane in round of 16 last season, like, he just fell apart, you know?
Yeah, the best players are going to be the players, like, I keep referring to Life as a Zerg player, but he's someone to really look up to just because he's like such a sick player macro-wise, but he still does crazy builds, and having that double threat, being able to play both sides of that coin, and your opponents are never going to know what you're going to bring. You know, is this the life that's just going to make a lot of Zerglings and just like A move into my wall and break it down? Or
Life is constantly doing that too. Like he built a third, like I remember watching one of his like last ZVTs, and it was either GSL or the SC2 Star League, but he like built a third hatch like in a random corner of the map just to hide that he's going to build Banelings from it.
Yep.
Like he just does weird stuff that doesn't make any sense, and he makes it work. And that's, I guess, something to aspire to, but it's also, you know, he's life.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, StarCraft 2 is similar to poker. You know, if you're always known as that player that's just going to play, you know, really good pocket hole cards like ace-ace, king-king, you're going to have a hard time. But if you're a player that can play all kinds of styles, you know, you can bluff.
Got to be unpredictable as often as possible.
Yeah.
So this game, what we're seeing out of NXZ, bit later gas.
I mean, he's droning pretty hard. He's not getting, like, the 10 Zerglings, but he still made, what, 8? I mean...
Like, 8lings, what realistically do these 8lings save him from? You know, can just the queens with only maybe with just defend this?
Yes.
Okay.
If he micros perfectly, and Harstem going for the same build last game, he's just going the Forge, triple gate, he's going to take a third Nexus, push out with sentries probably. I mean, I'm expecting the same exact thing from Harstem, and I'm hoping NXZ is going to do something different. But so far, he's just droning. He doesn't need to dedicate to anything yet. You know, he doesn't really have options. It's Bonnie research. What is he going to do?
Is this a faster third from Harstem?
It's very similar. I think it's easier on this map to take a third.
Okay.
Compared to the last map, but
I wasn't sure if it was just a little bit quicker than the previous game. NXZ's getting his Roach Horn. His Zergling speed is halfway done.
Like, I would like to see him be really aggressive here, cancel the third. Something like that. Something small, but will give him a good advantage going. He's going for the gold base, it looks like, with this drone.
I mean, his speed's only halfway done, though. Like, do you think he could actually cancel the third?
Yeah, I definitely think it's possible. You get a good amount of roaches, you follow it up with Zergling reinforcements, and they arrive by time the roaches are attacking. It's possible, it's doable. It's all about control. But he is making enough roaches, and it looks like he's going to actually commit to this. I like this. So he does want to cancel this third base. We're going to see some aggression here, and it's going to come down to control.
Does Harstem have what he needs to defend? The cannon is very close to finishing.
He does.
So it's a control battle now.
Yeah, and the Nexus and the Photon Overcharge. And he has enough sentries where he's not really in any danger as long as he hits the force fields. And he's already scouting. He knows this aggression's coming. So it's going to be pretty hard for NXZ to do damage here. The worst case is he gets, like, you know, donutted. He gets that sentry force field donutted, and he loses everything, and he does no damage. But he needs to accomplish something with these units. If he doesn't, he's just going to be slightly further behind than he was last game, and still in the same position.
Yeah, that didn't really work out too well for him in the previous map. The Photon Overcharge is triggered. He has the Photon Cannon here, too. The Roaches are going to try to hit this this Photon Cannon, but at the same time, he's taking a lot of heat from those. He's preemptively getting some force fields up against the Lynx. He even built a second and third cannon behind the Nexus. So if he were to try to even surround it, he wouldn't have full surface area, and he would be taking a lot more damage.
Yeah, and he has like a good SimCity. Harstem saw this coming, scouted perfectly, and he defended perfectly. And, I mean, if NXZ really commits there and he throws his units into force fields, he could just lose everything and lose the game. Maybe not now, but later on he would be really, really far behind. It was okay. He needed to do damage, but I think
he didn't really get much.
You can't commit there, though, as a Zerg player. He was too well prepared, and now he's got the gold base. Yeah, he might be okay.
The only other thing I could think of asking at this point is if he hadn't gone for this aggression, or if he had feigned it, you know, built half as many units, would the drones he could have otherwise built have possibly made things better for him, or?
Yeah, the timing was a little off because he did take that quicker third base this game, as you said. So I feel like the normal timing, he would hit and there would be like one cannon and the Nexus would be halfway done, and he could start doing that damage to the Nexus and threatening to cancel. But with such good SimCity, the Nexus finishing by the time he got there, Photon Overcharge, the extra cannons, can't really commit to that. Especially because it's Bonnie Research with that one single ramp.
Yeah, there's only one angle to really attack this base from. If you try from the left side, like there's
a wall anyways. There's SimCity, everything. Yeah. So now he's just gonna move around, try to pick up the Stalker, scout.
It's something. You still lose the Overlord that's spotting for vision, which is why it's so important to have it there. The Ling's trying to run around, but you mentioned the SimCity. Like the left side is completely closed off, and almost runs into a force field trap.
Yeah, he's just keep poking. He wants to know where the army's at. Harstem's like kind of going for this halfway feint again, but he can do damage. That's what's so good about this Blink Stalker Sentry control, is that if you do have good control, you have options. And at the same time, you always can recall, you can always force field to, retreat. And NXZ needs to try to get like a surround here, ideally, and force a recall without losing too much. But that's a lot easier said than done.
Yeah, this is going to be a very, very difficult push to stop. I mean, +2 is close to finishing. Blink is close to finishing. He's got the Warp Prism and a Robotics Bay coming in to follow this up. Like, the Warp Prism
It's going to be the same thing
can
from
of
last
worms.
game. It's going to be the same thing from last game with the Zealot harass and the, you know, small little pushes.
Yeah.
He doesn't take as much damage. You remember at last game at this point, he was canceling the 4th base with that force, and he was doing more damage with the Zealots. He's not doing it this game, but I don't know. NXZ going for Fungal? I
mean,
guess it's okay, but it's so dependent on your opponent making a positional mistake.
Yeah, I mean, if you compare this setup to where they were closely to this point in the first game, relatively speaking, is NXZ any better or worse off, or
Very, very, very similar.
okay?
Slightly variations with the infestors, but
And Harstem's going to go Colossus this game too, so not
I feel
straight
like
into Storm.
I feel like that's actually better for NXZ. We're seeing more and more Storm, especially from the Koreans, and I feel like the way Harstem plays into that better than the Colossus style.
So is Harstem just trying to mix it up and keep him on his toes, or?
I think it's because the infestors possibly.
All right. Yeah, I mean, there's a pretty hefty number of Zerglings on the map. There's 97 Zerglings, so I can see where the Colossi are effective in that instance.
Yes. We're going to have the Warp Prism come in here. I don't think it's going to do too much damage. NXZ already kind of spotted it, so he knows what's coming. And he's just going to lose a Hydra, but killing four Zealots for, you know, 1 Hydra is not that big of a deal. He's probably happy with that trade, to be honest.
I mean, he gets a few Zerglings too. I mean, he's got that +2 on the Zealots, but not the craziest thing ever. Harstem's making a big push out, though. He has 1 Colossus with this army. His Extended Thermal Lance is only halfway done, but he's taking a 4th base and the Templar Archives behind it, so he has the, you know, his escape button ready. He's ready to press recall if he needs to, if he can't break this army or if he gets fungled in a really bad position.
And he cancels the 5th base. I mean, Harstem just playing textbook Protoss. He's poking with his main army, and behind it he has the Warp Prism. NXZ needs to kind of split up his army a little bit more. He has a really good bank. He could even throw down a lot of static defense, and he's getting the Greater Spire. I feel like if he could get to Broodlords, he has a really good shot just because Tempests aren't as strong as they used to be, and Broodlords take a little bit more damage from those Tempests to be killed.
Now, that's a really good point, considering that Harstem is only just now getting his first Stargate, which means we could actually have Broodlords on the map before a Tempest is even in production, which that's a pretty powerful position to be in. If NXZ can do that and get it in the right spot, then that's really nice. Harstem sends out a Hallucinated Warp Prism, try to bait him while he hits the 5th base once again, and still has that Warp Prism in the northwest, while getting his army in position here and killing a lot of Zerglings for free.
Yeah, he's just peeling off units. Both players just playing safe. As I said, they respect each other, but I don't know. It's better for NXZ this game just because he's getting this later Storm, and by having the Viper threat and the Infestor threat, you can Blinding Cloud, you can Fungal, you know, he has the Hive. It's always something in the back of Harstem's mind that he might be scared of, but it looks like he's going to just, you know, hallucinate 3 Colossus, make it seem like he committed a lot more than he actually did. Oh, this is nice. Picking up the Warp Prism, you know you don't have to worry about your back bases, and you can more clump up your army and try to defend this 5th base. But still, it's going to be pretty hard against this many Colossus. 3 being real, 3 being hallucinated, but
It's going to be really tricky. He's got 6 Broodlords on the way. Hallucinated Void Ray to try to defend against this Zergling attack. Not, you know, Hallucinated Void Ray is not the most threatening thing, so
I don't know. You got to ask Idra about that one.
as he starts to push in towards this 3rd base, hallucinates a few more Colossi, and, you know, those Broodlords very close. A couple of them almost ready, but not in time. He's able to get the Stalkers underneath. There's the Fungal, but I think he can actually still hit some of these Broodlords, throwing the Storms down underneath them at the same time. And even with these Fungals, there's just not enough meat in this Zerg army to actually overwhelm him. 50 Lings on the way, but if you don't kill the Colossi, the Zerglings are going to be useless.
Yeah, beautiful Fungals, but the timing was so good. The Broodlords just weren't finished. If he came 10, 15, 20 seconds later, this push would have been a lot easier to hold for the Zerg player. And now, yeah, like you said, all the Zerglings are going to come out, but there's Colossus already on top of them, and they're not together. They're coming at one wave from each hatchery.
Yeah, the Colossi are just absolutely phenomenal against these big packs of Lings, and NXZ is quickly burning through his bank down to just 115 supply. And I don't even know if he has the larva that he needs to actually. He's got 14, so he can spend it on something. Goes into roaches. But I mean, this army with the reinforcement capabilities, I think it can deal with the next wave or 2 anyway.
Yeah, that pylon's about 80% done. As soon as he has that, if he can warp in some Zealots, Stalkers, whatever, he just needs some meat with this army to protect these Colossus. And he's going to keep pushing.
Yeah, this army is going to knock down this base. He still has the gold base on the east side of the map, but a Protoss on 4 bases like this,
+3 finishing. His army's only going to get stronger at this point. Harstem being a little too safe. I would have liked to see him commit, just end the game here. I feel like if you give your opponent a chance, like his his sloppy macro, to be honest, could come back to bite Harstem in the butt. Because he does have 1.2k, 1k. I don't think Mutalisk are the choice, though. I mean, he already knows he has, you know, High Templars, he has Blink, he has Archons, he has a Stargate almost. And
he has 3 Stargates and a Fleet Beacon.
yeah, like...
He can start Phoenix range and just start pumping out Phoenix right now if he really wanted to.
Mutalisk are a great unit to have when you're ahead in the game, but he's not ahead.
No, not at all. Zealots are going to be warped in to try to defend against these roaches, so they're going to get something done. But you know, the big army's coming back. His Big Daddy Colossi ready to push these roaches away. He wants to snipe this base. Doesn't even have the damage output to do that, so he's going to run to the third. Keep in mind, there's still cannons there.
Yeah, cannons, SimCity, he warps in a sentry to force field. That was cute. And now the Stalkers are going to act as a natural wall, just blocking in these units. And where are they going to go? They're going to go back to the 4th base where there's more units waiting for them?
Not going anywhere. Snipes a Templar. I guess he doesn't want to storm his own probe, so he'll clean these up. Now the Mutas are going into the natural. This is where Harstem just says, okay, start using those Stargates. Immediately starts Phoenix range. Immediately starts building 3 Phoenix at a time. And with Harstem's economy, with the way that he's been playing in this game, that Phoenix count scales super fast. Like, he would have to immediately unpower all 3 Stargates, and even then I don't actually think that'd still be enough.
Yeah, he's still got all these Blink Stalkers. He's got the Phoenix coming out just in time. He's also going to could just warp in another round of Stalkers. Can he really kill all of them? It's going to be tough. He's going to have to trade out.
A lot of them were low on hit points. They just had the shields, but it buys some time to get Phoenix out, and then the Phoenix can immediately get to work. He still has that massive army. I mean, something actually got a bit of a Zergling run by, it looks like, towards the 4th base, so Harstem takes a bit of damage, but he's got the main brunt of his ground force actually pushing the gold at the same time.
Yeah, he's just going to counter. And look, this army is huge. If those Mutalisks came back to defend, they would have no shot. And at the same time, they're already struggling to kill Harstem at his main base. So it's a base race, but Harstem's not even losing anything.
I mean, Harstem can afford to sack his 4th base to, you know, win the game in exchange, right?
Yeah, he still has a good amount of workers. He can always retake it. And
Phoenix range is done now, too. So the Mutas are just, it's a moot point now.
Yeah, and the Zerglings even, they're not going to get great surface area at the 3rd. There's already cannons there. He can warp in Zealots. It's really rough for him.
Harstem playing a phenomenal game. GG's called. He will move on to the winner's match to play against IA at the World Championship Series, Group D. So not bad. Like,
not bad at all.
He switched it up a little bit, going for the Colossi. He got there right before the Broodlords finished. Any other notes? Any other ways you'd like to enlighten me, Chris?
Not really. NXZ, the Mutas kind of paid off just because it was, you know, saved him a little time, distracted Harstem for a little bit, but he lost too much with that push.
Yeah. Well, you got to try, I guess. You said you had to try something. Was that enough something, or should he have tried something else?
He should have tried something else.
You think maybe like
it was a little too standard, yeah, or be more greedy, you know, take a quicker 4th base.
Too standard for an opponent that heavily favored?
Yes, I think so.
All right. Well, it's going to be very tricky. I'm curious to see what happens in his series against Xenocider.
Yeah, I think Harstem particularly practiced a lot of PvZ because there's 2 Zergs.
Yeah.
So I think he's well-rounded in PvZ, and Harstem's more likely going to struggle against, you know, someone like Xenocider. But will he play him?
We don't even know. His next opponent will be IA. Let's hear from the man himself. Harstem is with Smix.
Thank you very much, Nathanias. Congratulations, Harstem. A 2-0 start, always a great way to start the day. Harstem, when we have been talking about you in this group, everyone has been stating that they expected you to come out first, but that can be a little bit pressuresome. It can be a little bit extra stress because people are expecting you to do well, but you seemed really confident. You didn't seem affected by nerves at all.
Yeah, I think I played pretty well in this series. Yeah, pretty straight up games, I think.
Yeah, that's one way to put it. Yeah, you were very, very impressive in your series against NXZ. So we always joke about this Year of Harstem thing, but actually you're doing really, really well lately. You did well at DreamHack. You made top 8. Now you're doing really well here. Is there a particular reason you think things are just coming together for you lately?
No, not really. I think I've been playing pretty well lately. I think DreamHack was a bit of luck with the bracket as well, and now I think I had one of the easier groups as well, so I don't think you can judge too much yet, but we'll see in a few months.
All right, well, your next opponent is another Zerg, and you have been playing a lot of Zerg lately. You played Serral and Challenger, you just played a Zerg now, and your next opponent is another Zerg. So does this make you feel more confident headed into the matchup because you're just playing it so often, or are you a little bit wary just because IA probably has been watching this series?
Well, I feel like I've always been playing the same against Zerg for the past 1.5 months, so if he did his research, which I think he should have done, then he already knew what I was playing, so I don't think it matters much if he watched this series or not. Yeah.
All right, before I send you off, last but not least, Harstem, you've been doing extremely well. You just sound extremely confident, and you are playing confident. So in terms of headed out of this group and making it to the top 16, how confident are you in that?
Pretty confident, I guess. I just won 2-0, and I'm in the winner's match. And I think against all of these players, I'm the favorite. So yeah, I think I have a good shot of getting to the round of 16.
All right, then. Well, thank you very much, Harstem. Best of luck in your next series. Guys, when we come back, it is the elimination match of Group D already. It'll be America versus Australia and Xenocider and NXZ, so don't go anywhere.